I had the opportunity to play with and test the new Apple Watch Ultra.
Hands-on with the Apple Watch Ultra. This is my first time holding it. It feels heavy, heavier than the Series 7.
And in this video, I'm going to share what my thoughts and perspectives are on how it feels, what it's like, and the future of this fitness technology. I put it side by side next to my Whoop strap, my Apple Watch Series 7, and I gotta say, I am absolutely in love with the new Apple Watch Ultra, and this is why. So right now I have the Apple Watch Series 7, the
Series 8, Series 7.
the 45mm. I have relatively large wrists, but one thing I do love is typing on my Apple Watch. Yes, that is a weird thing, but I do like to do a lot of messaging on my Apple Watch so I don't have to deal with my iPhone as much. It's just easier on the go. And the one thing I love about the Ultra was the bigger screen means bigger keyboard. So 45mm to 49. That extra 4mm actually helps a lot when it comes to typing or swiping on your watch. I do love the rounded edges of the Apple Watch Series 7 and 8, but the Apple Watch Ultra does have like a flat screen. It did feel more rugged and like this like intense look to it, but I do know that my Series 8 has gotten kind of scratched up because in New York City I'm always jamming it against things, so I think that ruggedness and that flat screen is really going to protect the Ultra. Now moving on to the digital crown. The digital crown is much bigger than the Series 7 and Series 8. There is like a guardrail on each side of it, so you can really only roll the digital crown from either the top or the bottom, so that was kind of interesting. And then one thing I asked is like when you do use it in the ocean, I've noticed my digital crown can get kind of stuck, and he said that's due to the salt water, so all you need to do is pour warm water and kind of just move the digital crown, and that'll help get some of that salt out of there, and it just cleans it out and it should work perfectly fine. But overall it felt really strong, it felt rugged, and you can really easily turn that digital crown and with gloves on or whatever you have, and you don't have to worry about really being strategic with how small the current digital crown is. It is relatively large and you might accidentally hit it like with your sleeves and things like that, but once again you can really only hit it from the top and the bottom because the left and right sides of the digital crown have like that protective guard. And next to the digital crown there is a button, and then on the other side there's another button, and you can program that second button to kind of start workouts, do certain things that are specific to what your needs are. I did find that when I was playing with the Apple Watch, I kept accidentally pressing that second button and I kept starting a workout on accident.
I have accidentally pressed this and started a workout instantly.
I'm not sure how that's going to live up in real world use, so I'm excited to test it out. Mine arrives next Friday, and I'm going to test that to see if I accidentally hit random workouts on accident. Now when it comes to the overall look and feel, it was much larger. Like when I first put it on, I was like, damn, this thing looks beefy. It's definitely taller, it's wider, it's thicker. It just looks a lot larger on my wrist, and I do have larger wrists.
Alright, this is Colt's wrist, and he has a smaller wrist than me, but this is the Ultra on his wrist.
But I would bet over time you get used to it and it feels relatively normal. Just like when we went from an iPhone mini to an iPhone Pro Max, in the beginning it just feels really big, but then overall it becomes normal. I do sleep with my Series 7 and I have for pretty much the past year. Once you wear it for a couple nights, you get used to it, you forget that it's there, and then when the nights you're not wearing it, it actually feels uncomfortable not to have your Apple Watch on. So I think with any kind of band that you're wearing, your body just naturally gets used to it over time. And then I'm really excited about the extra battery life because this kind of, I have to charge in the morning and then I charge it at night for like 45 minutes each time. So being able to just charge it maybe once a day is going to help a lot. And I'm hoping that extra battery life is going to allow me to use the Ultra as like a primary driver, as my sole device, and make it like the dumb phone that I wear on my wrist. And then I have my cell phone for only specific scenarios where I need to actually do any kind of like power tasks. Next, the Apple Watch bands. So the new Apple Watch Ultra comes with 3 new bands. I played with all 3 of them and I got to hear what each one was inspired by. The Ocean band is great for like any ocean activities, like high impact water sports, like water skiing, surfing, things like that. And it has this like adjustable spring, so you can change one of the loops and then you can intertwine the other loop, and it becomes like this locked thing, so that way your Apple Watch will definitely not fall off in these high impact exercises. Because I know I've had friends who surf and they've lost their Apple Watch while surfing. It was a good feel. I don't know if this is something I'd wear on a daily basis, but maybe for surfing it could be good. And then the next 2 were probably my favorite ones. The Alpine, which was kind of inspired by climbing. There was a hook that you put into each of the bands. It's like built in a way where there's no stitching, so it's very sturdy, very light band. So the Alpine loop is inspired by climbing. You can just hook it in, and it's got different sizes that you can hook it onto. It was really light. I liked it. I did struggle a little bit at the beginning to put it on into the hooks, but I think over time I could get used to it, to putting it on one-handed. And then third was my favorite, the trail loop. This is the lightest. It was kind of Velcro. You kind of just pull it and you tighten it. It is pretty elastic, and then if you're doing a kind of exercise and your wrist starts to get more swollen, you can actually loosen it a little bit. So I really like that concept of the trail loop. Like my favorite is the Nike band because it has holes, it's breathable, it dries really fast, and I can just like wipe it with a towel after I shower and it's like ready to go for the next activity. So I'm curious how the trail loop is going to manage when it gets super sweaty and soaking wet whether I'm swimming. But the trail loop was definitely my favorite. Now my biggest question was, can I use my Nike band with the Apple Watch Ultra?
This is going to be my main watch. Oh yeah. So something to keep in mind. But overall, Like it looks good, I think. What do you think, Colt?
I put on a Milanese.
Can I wear this out to a fancy dinner or not? It fits, it's smooth on the edges. This is a 45mm watch band. Fits nice on the edges. Obviously the color is different. You know, you got the black and then the Apple Watch Ultra on a black fancier band. I think you could, it looks a little bit big, but I think it works.
And for the most part, it was kind of big. It could work with the fancy band, but it definitely worked with this band. It works with the 44, 45, and 49mm bands are all interchangeable, so you could buy one of those Apple Watch Ultra bands and use it on a 44 or 45mm Apple Watch Series 7 or 8. Make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications. Next, my favorite features. I'm super excited for the new dual GPS. I know I've been trying to run a lot more. I have this new goal of doing a sub 5-minute mile, and I realized that sometimes the GPS is off on my watch, and I try to carry my phone to make sure it's more accurate, and it becomes this whole thing, and then I don't know how much I actually ran. But being able to get that data and make sure it's right, so that way I can slowly increase my mileage week over week, it's going to be extremely valuable, and data can be inspiring to push me to run more. So specifically on the track, I'm very excited for that whole track feature where it's going to measure me on the track and I can do track workouts. The temperature sensing, so there's one on the inside and one on the outside, so getting my skin temperature, that's going to compete with Whoop and Aura. I know I use these all the time to get my skin temperature. I know they can tell me if I potentially have a fever, or when I eat late at night my skin temperature goes up, so I'm curious if the Apple Watch will also be able to provide me that information. Cycle tracking, sadly I can't test out, but I think it's going to be really good for a lot of people. And then the 86 decibel siren, that's going to be so neat. And then lastly, how did it feel next to my Whoop strap? I thought the Apple Watch Ultra was relatively large next to the Whoop strap, next to the Series 7, but with anything, you know, the more you wear it, the more you get used to it. The one thing I don't like about wearing things on my wrist, Apple Watches and Whoop strap, is that when I'm putting on my backpack, when I'm putting on a sweater with long sleeves, sometimes things can get stuck on whatever I'm wearing on my wrist and like hug and pull on it. So the Apple Watch Ultra is just a little bit bigger. I'm curious how it's going to manage against my sleeves and my backpack. Like, it's going to get stuck when I'm putting on the thing. So these are the things I'm going to test out and see over time, like how does it impact my daily use. But putting it next to the Whoop strap looked tiny next to it, so I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. But which one should you buy? If you have an Apple Watch Series 7, stick with it, stay with it. If you have an older model, I'd probably upgrade because all the new hardware and software features are going to be extremely powerful. Between the Ultra and the Series 8, it's really what do you need? I know I'm going to be running a lot, so I want the dual GPS. I love to spend money I don't have, so Ultra is the way to go. And then lastly, the big screen and the cellular and the bigger battery, like just being able to use the Apple Watch as my daily driver device, so that way I'm not getting distracted by my phone, is going to be huge. I'm going to try to find ways to kind of put my phone inside of my backpack, or ways that it's not physically accessible, so I'm required to use my Apple Watch as my main device. And that's why I'm going to buy the Apple Watch Ultra, so I can turn that into like my main iPhone, and the iPhone is kind of like my computer that I carry with. Let me know what other questions you have. My Apple Watch Ultra arrives here next week, and I will test out and answer all your questions.